What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into a Ysn Power Hour for this Monday, September 11th, 2023. Obviously, a day that a lot of us remember, not just in the sports world, but across the board for many years. This will be 22 years ago today. It happened in the morning. A lot of us, we'll get into kind of the remembrance of it. But the question that I'm going to have for you is, do you remember where you were September 11th, 2001? I was in, ironically enough, history class my junior year of high school. And I remember our history, and this was kind of wild. Our history teacher was letting us know going into it that this was an event that we would talk about for the rest of our lives. Every single year for the rest of our lives, we will remember where we are in that particular moment forever. And that was not a fib. That was 100% accurate. It was 100% right on. And that's why I always want to ask and put it in the comments. Where were you September 11th, 2001? I think that's something that everybody remembers. There's certain moments in our lives that it doesn't matter where and how old you get, you always remember you were, and how bad your memory is, you always remember who you were and what you were doing and where you were in those moments. And September 11th is certainly one of those. Today I'm trying to get the graphic up for our power rankings. We have the volleyball ones, which is good because that has been a lot of the talk, so to speak, today on YSN is these power rankings, how we come up with them, the algorithm, all the things of that nature. If you had a chance to check in with Running Point today, I was on Running Point with Anthony Hartwig. We talked about and expressed our personal opinions on kind of where we are in the power rankings. So I'll give you the synopsis, the Cliff's Notes version of it. And basically, we're not perfect. We want everybody to know that. We are trying to and incorporating different algorithms, different different just ways to make it a better experience for everybody. We understand, we 100% understand that it's not perfect, but we're not doing this for us. We're doing it for the sport of volleyball. We're doing this for the communities, the coaches, and the players, right? The power rankings, to me, if I had to put it all in a nutshell, it's more about the infotainment, right? So it's half information, half entertainment, because it does absolutely nothing. It doesn't help with seedings. It doesn't help with anything other than, like, I was reading the comments, and some of them were really funny. Some of them were really mean, but there was a couple that were really good. And it's basically like, hey, don't change it. It serves as, an algorithm, and we're just spitting it out, which is exactly what's happening. It isn't like, and we've actually had people that said, hey, well, this is what we should do. It spits it out, and then we go, nah, let's put this team here. I think if you get into that, then you're opening up a can of worms that you don't want to get into. I think if you're given, let's say, 75% of the algorithm to science and data, and then you give that 25%, but the overriding 25% to put teams wherever you feel they should be. Like, why are you going by data at that point? I think then it turns into you're picking and choosing who you want, who you like. And I think that goes against everything that we're trying to do with power rankings. My ideology behind doing because I didn't like it. I don't like ranking teams necessarily, but I think that it comes down to, if you're going to do it, make sure that there's a science behind it. Make sure that it makes sense and that all fields are equal. That being said, we looked at the algorithm that we currently have for volleyball, and not all fields are equal. It looks like there is a legitimate beef for smaller schools, D3s and D4s, that D1s and D2s, their wins mean a little bit more than D3s and D4s. We don't have this problem in football. We don't have this problem necessarily even in baseball and softball. We don't have this problem in basketball. Right now, volleyball is the only outlier that we have this problem, because a lot of times you're playing as many games and there's no RPI. There's no anything that's been tangibly produced or manipulated to go, okay, here you go, here's the secret sauce. Now all you got to do is throw it on the burger and present it. We've created the algorithm. This is a situation where we see X plus Y equals Z, and right now Z doesn't look real good for what we think are some of the best teams in the YSN field, in the YSN family. So we're trying to change that. We're trying to one up that. We're trying to make it a better experience for not only those teams, but for all teams, and to be able to educate teams of why we do it. Because again, none of the rankings or seedings, thank God, are dependent upon. Oh, by the way, thanks Toyota of Warren. None of these are dependent on seeds or seedings or anything like that. Because if it was, we're out. Like we don't want that mush at all. We don't want that smoke. But there's a lot of people now that are starting to wonder about how basketball is going to look with no Martin RPI, and it's all going to be based on max preps. And if you were watching the show earlier, you heard that I'm not a fan of the way that things are going to shake out at all for the max preps, because I don't think max preps does their due diligence. I think they got a lot of money from advertising, because anytime that an ad runs on and listen, I can't complain or point fingers. We do the same thing, except for I don't think our advertising is as intrusive as theirs. And to each their own, right? To each their own. But it's one of those scenarios where now you got max preps that is basically going to be the outlier for how teams get ranked and seeded come playoff time for basketball in the state of Ohio. There's a lot of great coaches that do not touch max preps with a 10-foot pole. And now they're going to have to, if they want their team to be represented in a positive light, in a really, if you think about it, in a opportunistic way, that they're going to have to utilize max preps. And that's good for max preps. That's bad for the OHSAA. Instead of utilizing someone with a Martin RPI that worked incredibly hard, that did all the due diligence, that really, when you look at it, it had the almost seamless, user-friendly. It made sense. And they turned it over to the OHSAA, and the OHSAA said, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to go with max preps. And the only reason that we've been able to tangibly put a finger on is because the money associated with max preps. And that the OHSAA, as they always do, are belly aching about how they're losing money every year. And they're doing this, yet they're sitting on $17.9 million in Columbus that they're not touching. It's their rainy day or their slush fund. And to me, that doesn't equal out. That doesn't equal out. I get it. You can look at your books and say, hey, we're losing money. Every year we're losing money. But you have $18 million sitting right there that you can throw right back out there as part of your slush fund. What does the OHSA need a slush fund for? What do they need to have to bank that much in the reserves? I mean, what, in case they wanted to buy Ukraine? Like, what are you looking at? Like, that is money that is made from, and I don't want to get political, but let's go down the rabbit hole for a minute. That money that the OHSAA gets is made off the back of high schools, which are paid for by the taxpayers, which are supported by levies and things of that nature. And the problem that I have, just personally, is that a fraction of that money that taxpayers give to schools, that schools give to those particular friends at the OHSAA, only a fraction of that's coming back to your school. And they're telling you, you should feel good about this. I think it's like $1,300, $1,800, something in that range, right? And in some cases, that doesn't even cover your expenses or your membership costs. But yet, everybody backs down to the OHSAA because there's nothing else out there yet. I firmly believe that something's going to come. I firmly believe that there's going to be an ulterior or an alternative opportunity that's coming down the road. And whether it's us or somebody else, it's much needed. It's much needed. And I think the OHSAA knows that too. I think they're trying to bank as much as they possibly can right now and just cook in the kitchen while they still have fresh ingredients, because at some point it's all going to spoil and somebody else is going to come in and say, we can do this better. We can do it more for the kids, for the schools, again, that are involved, and there's a better outcome. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I know the fact is that anytime there's dollars associated with anything, there's an expectation, right? It's the same with YSN. It's the same with politics. It's the same with any business. Anytime there's a dollar amount associated, right, and you're passing it out, that there's an expectation for a particular service or a product. And some people care and some people don't. And right now, when you look at this, I think the OHSAA just doesn't care. I think they look at this and they go, oh, well, as long as people are still coming to these games, as long as people, the memberships are still being paid by these schools, because what they used to tout is that it was a free membership for every member school, right? You can be a member of our school, and the schools are like, okay, you know what? That's cool. But just as we are as consumers, anytime there's dollars associated with the OHSAA, there's an expectation for a product. So what are you getting for $2,000 that you were not getting for $0? Right? Or what's the difference? The antiquated difference is we're still waiting. We're still waiting as to what's the difference between the free membership of the OHSAA and the paid membership of the OHSAA. Because there's no more referees than there were before. There's no more education than there was before. There's no more perks than there were before for schools, for officials, for anybody, really. They're still charging the media out the nose to come and cover these games because of the copyright. What is there out there that the OHSAA is doing? And I know we've taken a hard turn towards this, but this is what I'm trying to get at, is the money that they're going to get from Max Preps. You're not going to see any of that money. You're not going to see any difference. You're not going to see a change. It's just not going to happen. You're going to see a bunch more headaches. And I think basketball fans need to be ready for that. I think basketball fans need to understand that the tail's wagging the dog a little bit here. And what you're going to see is that same OHSAA point the finger back to the schools and say, well, your coach didn't upload the information the correct way, or your coach doesn't have the correct numbers. Or it's always a finger pointing game with when you get into it with them. It really is. And they'll make you dizzy with what they bring to the table. There's zero clarity, other than with clarity that you're not going to get the answer that you're looking for, or that just an answer in general. They're going to spin you around in circles, and you're going to be told to go pin the tail on the donkey. And when you do, they're going to say, well, the game's over. There's people that'll back me up on this. There's people, not just in sports, but people in business that are going to back these situations up. The OHSAA is they're not frustrated at all. And in fact, and I've said this before on the show, I think Tim Street is one of the best communicators of anything in any sport, in any business that I've ever been a part of, right? He is so good at locking things down and making sure that it goes off without a hitch, except for when it doesn't. And he's kind of hands tied at some situations. And I'm not making this Tim Street versus OHSAA or YSN versus OHSAA. I'm just bringing it out as a member of the media. It's my job to bring that out and show you and tell you that if you have a problem right now with the power rankings in volleyball, or power rankings in football, or power rankings in general, right, that someone creates, you have a right to your opinion. However, what happens when there's a weight that comes with that? What happens when there is a weight of your season is reliant on where you're seated? Because any coach is going to tell you that seedings, they matter, right? And they're going to tell. They might not. They might just say, "Hey, we're going to beat the coach speak," right? The stuff. I keep doing air quotes. I got to stop that. The coach speak is, we need to beat who's put in front of us. But the reality is seeding matters. And any coach that doesn't admit to that, even in private behind the doors, behind the scenes meetings, they need to be checked because seeding matters, right? Football, if you're a 16 seed and you're playing the 1 seed, listen, we've seen it happen once, right? And I get it. There's a lot of people out there that are going to say, wait. It happened. It did happen. And that'll be there forever, right? But when you're going to the party in basketball or volleyball, basically any sport but football, there's going to be the 36 seed. And I don't think a 36 seed should beat a 1 seed. I don't think it'll happen. I think that's a different ballgame. 36 seeds or whatever that number is, I'm just making it up, pulling it right out of thin air. 36 seeds are teams that barely have enough kids to play, and they're just trying to keep the program together and give them something. They should never beat a 1 seed. It should never happen. Will it happen? There's always a chance. That's why they play the game. But wait until someone is cooking the book, so to speak, right? Cooking their stats, cooking their records, just because there's no conversation anymore. People used to, and I've been in rooms where coaches would argue about the argument that they were arguing about at these seating meetings. And right now, those meetings are gone. They're useless. And I don't know if that was part of what they were trying to do, is get rid of these meetings because they did get so aggressive at times. But I can tell you that even in those meetings, the coaches would try to kind of maneuver themselves or teams that they wanted to play best case scenario for their team. That's what a coach is supposed to do. What I'm worried about, what I'm absolutely terrified, because we have a hard time getting stats, getting rosters, getting schedules throughout the year from coaches, from athletic directors, whoever's in charge, right? It's different at every school. There's some schools we're still looking for rosters. There's some schools we're still looking for to complete their schedules. The reason I'm saying this is not to point them out, because listen, I get it. The last thing I'd want to be is someone that works in the sewers. The second last thing I'd want to be is an athletic director right now, because of all the grief that they take from everybody else. Since COVID, athletic directors have taken an incredible amount of grief from people, and they've been asked to do more and more and more and more and more, because as this world turns from professional to college to high school, everything has dropped down one rung. So what that means is all these athletic directors, all these coaches are expected to do everything that college coaches were doing 10 years ago. And same from college to pro, right? And nobody's talking about that. Nobody's explaining that to parents is, why aren't you helping my kid get recruited to the next level? Well, it's because they don't have any time. And also because if that expectation is set for your son or daughter, then it's set for everybody else's too. And some of these players, it as well as I do, are not good enough to make it at the next level. They're barely good enough to make it at the high school level. In fact, if teams had larger JV teams and freshman teams, because we have a numbers crunch right now, there's some varsity players in some varsity sports that would never play varsity. And I think we have to start having that true look in the mirror and understanding that not every athlete, number one, is Division I. Not every athlete is set to play college anything. Sometimes high school is where it ends. Sometimes middle school is where it ends. And then you buy yourself another 4 years because coaches need numbers. It's just how it goes, right? And I think we got to stop pretending like some kids deserve to play at the next level because they took batting lessons or kicking lessons or things of that nature. Listen, if you're dedicated to your craft, that's fine. That's great. And I implore you to go, but don't be surprised that a lot of these players, myself included, are surprised when you get the pats on the back your senior year and all of a sudden you go to the next level and it's like a big surprise that there are players that are better than you. When that pool continues to shrink, you either sink or you swim. And that's how it is. And there's a lot of kids around this area that are swimming. And there's more that sunk or never got in the pool. And that's okay. That's okay. But we have to start admitting that. And I think right now, trying to get back on track here with the conversation at hand is you look at what is coming down the pike, folks. You look at this again. I think the seating is going to be a problem. I think it's going to be a problem, and people have a problem right now with some fugazi uh, power rankings that we put together. And I hate to downplay it, right? But again, our power rankings are based on science. They're based on an algorithm that is wins and losses and division and stuff like that. Anthony and I talked through it with some of the other guys, Chris Sigler, and not to name names, it's a lot of people. And we're going to try to fix it. But I think that's the difference between what we're going to do and what you're going to see down the road. And Nate DeCross said it best. There's a lot of people that are complaining and really having a hard time swallowing what this is on the power rankings that are going to be absolutely confused as all get out when it comes time for basketball actual seedings. And I'm not trying to divert, right? We spent 45 minutes talking about it and even 23 minutes here today talking about our power rankings and how they are flawed. They're wrong. But the conversation keeps going on. Some people like them. The Fitches of the world, the East Liverpools of the world, the Hobans of the world, they're loving our power rankings, right? Because they're 1, 2, I think 1, 2, 3. As a matter of fact, let's check that out. Hang on. This is the power rankings. So here you go. Hoban, Fitch, East Liverpool. There you go. And then you got Lakeview at 4. Crestview comes in at 5. Girard at 6. 7's Ursuline. 8's LeBray. Jefferson in at 9. West Branch, that's your top 10. Then you got Reserve, Edgewood, Columbiana, Hubbard, Beaver Local, Garrettsville, Garfield, Wellsville, followed by Camel Memorial, Boardman, Ashtabula, St. John. Then you have, Mineral Ridge, Badger, United, Liberty, and Edison. So that's your top 25. What I'm going to tell you is this could be completely different next week. This could be absolutely shaken up, and it probably will be. It probably will be because, quite honestly, the messages that we get, I sound like a broken record. The YSN is your sports network. We're doing this for you, right? You know, obviously, there's a business component to it, but let me tell you, when it's not about you anymore, when it's not about the fans, when it's not about, again, the kids, the communities, and the coaches, when it's not about that, we're done. That's it. That's it. We're hanging up. For us, it'll always be about the kids, the communities, the coaches. It's always going to be about you. And while we have to put it together and string it together, we take your input seriously. We take it and we go back to the drawing board. I mean, not an easy conversation to have this morning, boys and girls, when I'm, sending text messages and group messages to our folks that are on the volleyball side of things. And I said, hey, our way of doing things sucks right now. It's just how it is. There's a lot of ego, right? When it comes with the stuff that we do, there's a lot of pride, and a lot of that was the sales were kind of, the wind was taken out of them this morning. And I want to preface and kind of go off of that and tell you that even though it sucks right now, we're going to work to get it better. But if we do, I want you to make sure that all of that hate, all of that aggressiveness, all of that keyboard warriorisms that are out there right now, if we're doing a better job, I need you to make sure that you're telling these guys and gals that they're doing a good job in doing it. It can't just be complain whenever things go wrong. It's got to be being able to give some of those pats on the back whenever things are going right. And we've had a few pats on the back today, and we're not fishing for them, right? We're not casting that reel. What we're trying to do is explain to you that nobody else is doing volleyball power rankings that's worth a damn, right? We're taking time that we could be devoting to other sports, to other athletes, to other projects that we have that we want to do, and we're putting it in volleyball because we think volleyball deserves it, especially one or two guys at this company that really feel adamantly about volleyball, right? And there's no coaches that have come to us and said that what you do sucks. I want to take that out, but do the math, right? If it's not coaches, if it's not ADs, if it's not administrators, who is it? We've talked about it before. It's just a bunch of, and listen, I'll put it out there. It's a bunch of people that want their kids and their teams to be ranked number one. Well, maybe they have an argument, maybe they don't. In this case, I think Crestview has an absolute legit argument of why they are not number one. And I think that there needs to be answers, and we're trying to provide that to you. But this isn't something that just because you have our number, you get to text us, nasty things and tell us how bad we are at our jobs. That's not how this works. Unless when we do good things, like we do literally every single day, you make sure you text and tell those people the same things. Like Anthony Hartwig needs to be commended first and foremost for what he's been able to do through YSN in the division of girls sports when it's never been done like this before. Never before have you seen 1,000 girls games featured on our network the way it has been the last 2 years. Never before. And Anthony's a huge part of that. Quid Pushkar, another huge part of that. Chris Sigler, excuse me, another huge part of that. Steve Leslie. The list goes on and on and on. But I'm telling you that in looking at what we've done with girls sports, we have made other entities raise up their game. And we've made them shine a light on girls sports to when it had never been shined before. And there's absolutely zero, and I'm saying absolutely zero pats on the back for that. And there should be. I'm sorry, there should be. To be able to take girls sports and put it in the forefront, right? It's a challenge. It's a challenge that guys like Anthony Hartwig embraced. And he should be commended for it because it's a lot easier to make money and get sponsorships for football and for basketball, for boys and for baseball. It's a lot easier to do that, right? We've created that niche of girls sports and we made it cool. I'm going to go out and say we made it cool. We made it profitable. We made it exciting. We give it as much, if not more sometimes, than we do for boys sports. And I don't feel bad about it. I don't, because I'm a huge softball fan. I love calling volleyball. Haven't called one this season, and it bums me out. I love volleyball. I love softball. Girls basketball in this area continues to get better and better and better and better and better. And I can give you 18 reasons of why it's getting better every year. But now they get the exposure that they deserve. That wasn't there 7 years ago. You might get one game all year. One game. And now you've got 1,000 girls' games to choose from. Programs like ours that highlight girls' sports, female athletes, female coaches, and then all the stuff that we do on the men's side, the boys' side, right? This is where it should be. But it's tough to do that, folks. I'm telling you. And it's, again, I'm not fishing for compliments or anything like that. It is tough to do when you wake up and someone tells you that you suck at your job. It's tough. It's tough. All of our guys took it. I'm going to be honest with you. They took it with an absolute grain of salt. I probably took it less. I took it worse than a lot of the guys. Because in my mind, where I'm at, I felt like you were being, and if you're out there, you're out there. I feel like people were being unfair to what we were doing. Does it piss people off? Does it make people mad? I'm sure it does. I'm sure that when some of these Crestview folks in that volleyball program woke up and they looked at that and they said, that is bullcrap, right? I'm here for it. We deserve an earful. However, to have the opportunity to be and have that even if it's bad, and I'm not a bad publicity is good publicity. I'm not that guy. But even if it's people are talking about you. There's people from Lakeview, from Girard, from you name it, go up and down the Mahoning Valley. And there's people that are saying Crestview deserves to be number one. That is awesome. That's one of the cool things about this day that nobody's talking about is that everybody's pointing to Division 3 little school Crestview as number one. But unfortunately, instead of just raising them up, there's got to be a chopping block and somebody's got to get their hand hacked off. Unfortunately, it's us. And if that's what it takes to get small schools recognized for what they need to do, then I will sign up 100 times out of 100, and you can throw all the rocks you want at me. Honestly, it's what I'll do. Because I think what Ysn Hour and again, that program has been so good since I was in freaking elementary school. I remember how good that program has been, and for a service to come along and show that, I think that there's a lot more good than there is bad in this situation, and I keep trying to see the good in it, right? And I don't mind if you tell us that we're wrong. It's when you make it personal, that's when it stings a little bit, right? And you got to have that thick skin, and you got to be able to take that beating. And I'm willing to, but don't throw it at my guys. Don't throw it at the people that care so much about your kids that they're giving up their nights, their evenings to go see these kids in person, to see these student athletes in person, to highlight them, to have them on our shows, to get player profiles. All of this stuff takes time and resources, folks, right? It's our jobs. Yes, I know. But none of us are driving Maseratis, right? It's a thing like you just got to be appreciative, and whether that's, asking questions is fine. I've got no problem answering questions. I might not always have the answer. We might not always have the answer, but we'll try to get back to you. We'll try to get back to you in a cordial manner. But if you're a jerk and you tell us we suck at our job and you demand answers, right there, pal, you're not going to get it. Like, you treat us with respect, we treat you with respect. That's how it goes. That's how it's always going to go. And I tell that to our guys. You cannot walk into a gym or a field and demand things. You don't demand rosters and schedules. You ask for them politely ahead of time, because everybody knows that, Friday nights or game nights, ADs are busier than a one-legged man in a you-know-what kicking contest, right? Let's get into some of these comments here real quick. Let's start at the top. Looks like my buddy Ty Bartell. He says, dartboards and blindfolds. Definitely dartboards and blindfolds. Yep, that was the one. If you don't like them, do your own rankings publicly every week for all YSN schools. Not as easy as you think. Amo, appreciate you on that one. Big Rig. Guys are doing great. Thanks for all the hard work. Thank you, Big Rig. We appreciate that. And again, I'm not fishing for compliments. This isn't a situation where we need love to continue to do what we do. We don't do that, right? We do it for a very specific reason or reasons. And I as much as today has kind of gone awry, I still say mission accomplished. I still say mission accomplished. And I told Anthony that, and I'll tell everybody that I still think it's mission accomplished, because no matter what you say about the power rankings and how they line up, we got 25 teams, some love today, right? And whatever order they're in, to me, is not important. There's 25 teams that get to say that they're in the top 25 of the YSN power rankings. All right? There's 43 teams that don't. And I think that's what we're missing here. I really do. I think that's what we're missing. And, as we continue to do the power rankings, because at this point, everybody likes them. Well, let me just take that back. Our guys like doing it because it's a challenge. It's a great topic. It's a great conversation starter. There's people that don't even like sports that are looking at the power rankings and they're saying, oh, wow, Oh wow. I mean, for instance, let's go real quick. There's somebody right now. I mean, literally, I got a text message as I was picking my son up, and it said, "Oh wow, I didn't realize that Boardman was that good." Boardman's ranked number 19, or excuse me, 16, 19, 19. There it is. There's there's a lot of good that can come from these power rankings. There's a lot of good that we can do is just shining that light, the spotlight on these teams. And again, we're not going to succumb. We're not going to back down to people saying, "Oh, well, that team needs to be number one. That team needs to be." We're not going to. We didn't do it in baseball season. We didn't do it in softball season. We're not going to do it in volleyball season. Football does its own thing, right? It's a beast of its own. Joe Idol, God bless you, for being able to make all these people understand. And I'll tell you, here's what else we're not going to do. We're not going to trim up the divisions. What's the fun in that? You can go to the state rankings and do it yourself. You know, Anthony made it crystal clear. In Division 3, Crestvew's ranked number 3. Right? And that's kind of where I'm at is okay, they're ranked number 3 for a reason. There's two teams that are supposedly better than them in the state that I'm interested in seeing. I'm rooting for and I put this as a public post out there probably a week and a half ago. I am rooting for every single YSN school, every single YSN player, every single YSN student athlete, every single YSN coach, every single YSN announcer, every single athletic director that gave us a chance, including teams that have since moved on, right? I love Terry Horn at Louisville. I think she is absolutely a phenomenal athletic director. I think that it's a shame how things went down, but I'm not going to not root for Louisville. They gave us 3 years of awesome just hospitality and multiple MVPs. I mean, it's about covering these student athletes. It's about covering these coaches. It's about shining a light on these communities that was not being served and were not being served for a very long time. We've got teams in there that this is their entire, not everybody's a football school. Some of these schools are volleyball schools. Some of these schools are basketball schools. Some of these schools are baseball and softball schools. Some of these schools are cross country, track, you name it, lacrosse. Just the list goes on. Our job is to make them feel like every sport gets the same love as football gets. It's hard, folks. It's a challenge like I never thought I would have to face. Because I never thought I'm a baseball guy. I never thought that I would try to kind of manipulate these sports to make them feel every bit as important as the number one revenue generating sport in every single school, and that's football. And that's the difference. And that's the difference. 100% without a shadow of a doubt, that's the difference. Is that we're trying to make those kids who can't or don't play one sport feel as good as the ones that do. And it's not a pity thing. It's a how valuable is your time just because you were blessed with different talents. We've talked about we're doing a cross country meet this Saturday. We did it last year one time. We liked it. People liked it. We're doing it again. You can't tell me, as a father, as an owner of a business, as someone who loves sports, you cannot tell me that those cross-country kids don't deserve the same love as a kid that plays another sport. It just don't. Because I don't believe in it. You can't tell me it. And if you do, I'll tell you you're wrong. And it's the same way with and I've taken a lot of heat for this. Why do you guys show the band at halftime? You run your ads. We need it. I've fought sponsors. I've fought car dealerships. I've fought you name it. To me, showing 80 members of the band or 8 members of the band during halftime, giving them that little ounce of love that they need that gets them going from year to year, right? It gets a freshman to stay in the band as a sophomore to stay as a junior, and a junior staying as a senior. And maybe they get a ticket to go to that next level. Maybe they get to be part of the Ohio State marching band. Maybe they get to be part of Script Ohio. Maybe they get to be at YSU, and maybe that gets them to college. Our goal is just to get these kids opportunities to fall in love with a part of sports, whether it's a fan, whether it's being a coach someday, whether it's broadcasting perspective, whether it's an athlete perspective. There's so many different dynamics in sports, and we're just trying to give people opportunities to cut their piece of the pie. The power rankings, I do feel, are beneficial way more than they're not. And I've been told that many, 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 many times. Many, 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 many times. I'm not going to back down on the power rankings. If we're wrong, we'll try and fix it. We're going to do our best to do so. However, we're not perfect. We're not claiming to be perfect. We're claiming that we're going to do right by you. And if we're wrong, we'll fix it to the best of our ability. But that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. Back to the comments. You guys are doing great things for the high school sports community. Thanks for all you do. Thank you so much, Kim. Appreciate you. I love how you support all schools, sports and bands. And Corey, thank you very much for that. It is important to me, and we've lost money. I'll be quite frank with you. We've lost financial success based on my decision to show bands at halftime. I don't care if you've got 8 people in the band. I don't care if you've got 80 people in the band or 180, whatever it may be. Those bands put in time too. I remember earlier this year, I remember talking to a coach, and I swear it was Coach Pavlansky. And he said, I know when I'm outside and the band's practicing that it's time for football. That's the head football coach of a state champion football team telling you that the band has got him fired up to play. That's important. Those are sound bites that you miss, you go over because you want to hear him talk about, oh, it's this team versus this team. And not just Coach Pavlansky. Obviously, it's you want to talk about the X's and O's, but it's about the Jimmies and Joes. It's about the guys that are in the band. How about these band members that are doubling as football players and cheerleaders? That's incredible. Multi-talented. And yet all I ever hear is, why would you do that? I wish I was talented enough to do it, folks. I wish I was talented enough to do those two things and to be able to manage my time the way those kids do. Those young people. I need to stop calling them kids. A lot of them are taller than me and probably have better beards. But with all due respect, I think that we need to stop questioning these kids and their hearts in that, and people that are trying to help out those kids. You want to, again, you grill me like a steak. I don't care. But let's be respectful about it, right? I'm not going to because quite frankly, I don't have the time to. I'm not going to go to your job and criticize you because something didn't go the way that you thought it did. The goal was to get these student athletes more attention. Mission accomplished. I've got people talking about Crestview volleyball. I shouldn't say I have. We have. Crestview does. And a big reason for that, and they know, and God bless Laura Nappy. I think she's just, first off, first-class human being. Secondly, great athletic director. But I will tell you that she's probably laughing because more people are talking about Crestview right now because they deserve to be at number 1 than if they were actually at number 1. And isn't that the goal? Not that we did this with intent. It's just how the algorithm spit it out, and we're just reporting it. Remember, we don't report the bad stuff. Life's tough enough. You turn on the news, and it is tough living out there, folks. It is tough living. But you turn on YSN, you shouldn't have to worry about that stuff. You shouldn't have to worry about, having to earmuff your kids or do anything like that. We've gone through that. We're not doing that again. But it is aggravating whenever the personal hate comes out, and very pointed at yours truly's direction. And if that's what it takes, if I got to lay on the grenades for my guys to keep doing what they're doing and successfully, fine with me. Fine with me. Let's go to another comment here. Jeremy Atkins Hill. A football game, not the same without a band. A great band battle makes every football game significantly better. That's coming from the GOAT, Jeremy Hill. I love that kid. I love that guy. He is the bee's knees, as they say. The bee's knees. Jeremy Hill does such a guys that really passionate about not only sports but helping kids. Literally has given paychecks upon paychecks upon paychecks to make sure that kids are taken care of. Corey says, this isn't a dig at YSN. I also don't understand when national media does for college/pros. Honest question. What is the point of power rankings? There are and I can't see. I have it. Look, I got this in my face. So that if I'm squinting, that's why I'm squinting. I've got literally a light blasting in my face. What is the point of power rankings? Is there a benefit other than people talking about it? With that being said, it's the outrage is silly. I think we're on the same page here. And again, I think that it's like my comparison earlier today was like professional wrestling, right? We know it's not wrestling, real wrestling. We know it's real. Okay, I don't need anybody coming in here and hit me with a steel chair. We know it's real in its theater, right? Just like our TV shows, we recognize that they're real, they're happening, but it's pre-drawn conclusions. The power rankings are kind of like that. They're not pre-drawn, but it's kind of like, Corey, it's similar to it's similar to infotainment, right? It just gets the mouse moving, it gets the Muppets squawking, whatever you want to say about it. That's the difference, right? To me, when it was pitched, I mean, I was a no guy, right? When we rank anything, rank teams, rank players, I hated it. I've yelled at people like very rudely about it. But what I will tell you is not only does it move the needle, but if it is another avenue of drawing attention to a team and we can do 25 of them a week, then I'm in. I'm in. And even if it's hey, we're the 25th ranked team on YSN's power rankings. If it gets them a little bit excited, hey, we're making progress. That's kind of where I feel we're helping out. Now, 1 through 4, 1 through 5, like they're gonna battle it out because everybody wants supremacy. Everybody wants to be the number one. We're dealing with athletes after all, and we're dealing with competitive coaches. I get it. I understand it. Nobody practices to be number 2. I'm 100% behind that, and I get that. But like, I'm starting to understand because you live in the referees world, the officials world, pardon me, that some people don't get their way and it immediately goes from a 0 to an 11. It's, I can't tell you one of the comments that I got today because it's, Siri doesn't even get it. It was, given the climate of what's happened in the last couple weeks, it was kind of like, oh, interesting. I don't think my mom had anything to do with the power rankings, but here we are, right? So I think you get it from the official standpoint. I think it's really interesting. I think that some people they're not going to be happy unless they're number one. And even if they're number one, they're going to be miserable human beings and find something else to go wrong. Steve Hamburger says, you're doing great. We'll never make everyone happy. Keep plugging away. Love the effort. Thank you very much, Steven. I appreciate that. It's one of those things, again. Sorry. Um, Pretty cool to see that Hoban is ranked as a top team in the nation and multiple rankings. Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Is we get all the time people, why aren't you ranking all the schools in Summit County? Well, I like to think that we're a little bit more elite at YSN. I like to think that this means something. Now, obviously, a national ranking is going to be sweet. Like that, kudos to you. Congratulations. But believe it or not, 2 weeks ago, we had people saying that Hoban wasn't the best team. And then when Ursuline became the best team because of their schedule, people were saying Hoban should be the best. I mean, the same people. It's, and at some point, I, DJ Yoakley, have to learn to just let them talk because I tell her Sam Torres was ready to absolutely light everybody up with every like I could see his motor running, smoke was coming out of his ears, and he was ready to just hammer the keyboard. Right? I told him just let him talk. Unfortunately, today I didn't abide by my own advice. Today, not my greatest day, and I came at a guy. I mean, it was one of those things, and now I can tell you exactly what he said. He asked if we were blindfolded and threw darts to get our power rankings, and I said no, we don't. I said that we use a hat and we draw all the schools out of a hat, and that's how we do it. Which at the time made me feel really good, but then I was like, I probably shouldn't have said anything. You know, maybe we should throw darts at a board. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. All I can tell you is that we're trying. All I can tell you is that we're going to continue to tweak this until we get something that we really like. All I can tell you is Anthony Hartwig and Chris Sigler, who are taking time out of their busy schedules during the weekend, not getting paid for this, are going above and beyond. Our volleyball group are going above and beyond and making sure that all the scores are reported, things of that nature. Folks, you had something like 29 stories this past weekend on YSN for football, right? Those just don't happen. Like we're working to make this a better service, a free service for you, right? So at the end of the day, it boils down to what do you want out of it? Because we're always asking for help. If you think that you can do better or help us contribute to the success and spotlighting these teams, these communities, these coaches, then please help us. Because I'm not a guy that's going to sit there and criticize someone without offering a solution. That's just how, and I hope that through this, I'm not pointing anybody out directly, but this is what we need to start working towards. Hey, if your power ranking sucks, maybe you could do this and make it a little bit better. Right now, our thought is taking the top 25, and if you beat, let's say the 20, oh man, make the math easy. If the number 10 team beats the number 1 team, you get 20 points. 20 extra points. And that should help even out the system. That's our thought right now. But if you got a better one, we want to hear it. This is your sports network. My sports network is your sports network. That's the tagline. It is yours. Let's make it better together. That's how this goes. These folks are doing their job, right? They're paying the bills so you can get it for free. So let's make it better. We had an absurd amount of people watch. I'll give you the stats. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you saw it. Over the last week, we've had 359,000 views on our website. 359,000 views on our website. 471,000 clicks on our website. And there's been 24.3 thousand active users on our website. That is 24.3 active thousands of users on our website that are craving content that we're giving them, that we're providing for them. This is how it goes, folks. This is how it goes. We don't get better by ourselves. We get better together. So please, if you are looking to make it better and you can't offer anything but criticism, be you, I guess. But if you're out there and you want to give criticism and you want to provide a solution, that'll help us go even further. That's a lot more helpful and useful than anything that we got today. I want to thank everybody for being on this show today. Thank everybody for the positivity, the well wishes, the gratefulness, the kindness, all of that stuff that came with today. Again, did not fish for it, but I appreciate the words, because it's not just me that are feeling them. It's our entire YSN staff, our entire YSN family. And I know when the fish comes to boil, right, that everybody appreciates what we do. And if they don't, then they're just not fans, and that's okay. Well, you're not going to, like someone said earlier, you're not going to please everybody. But I'm glad we can please you. I'm glad we can make a difference for student athletes, coaches, and communities in this area. I really am. We're blessed to do what we do every day. And if this is the biggest argument that we have today, then I think we're all doing all right. I think we're all doing all right. Let's quickly get to, I think we have a couple more we'll end the show with. Can we have a YSN power rankings for top sandwiches? Yes, we can. Number one isn't a hot dog. Yeah, I think that, yeah, I really do believe that could be cool. We'll probably do that around March Madness. We did pizza a few years ago. That worked well. Thank you. I'll be at Boardman tonight, so I was getting some looks at South Range today. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a little awkward whenever you're picking your son up and all of a sudden you're in a Boardman Spartan shirt. But I will be at Double Bogies tonight with our boys and girls cross country team. We have the Spartan coming up on Saturday. We'll be doing that, and then we'll have the football team, DJ Doda, and a few players tonight that will be shining a light on them as well. Double Bogies and the Bunker, proud sponsors of that. And then don't forget, next week, we announced it last night. Next week, it's it's not even must see. It is, you've got to be there, because YSN Double Bogies next Monday night, we are throwing a watch party. The team from Pittsburgh and the team from Cleveland, one of which did really well, one of which really didn't. And I think we all know that I'm going to be eating crow on Wednesday. We're having a watch party on Monday for that game, Monday Night Football. And great food, great times, great friends. Please stop on by, even if it's for a pop or a soda or whatever you want to call it. Hang out, meet some of your YSN personalities. I'll be there. Would love to pick your brain about what you love and what you don't. Maybe talk some trash about the Browns and Steelers at the same time. That is going to do it for our show. Thanks to everybody for commenting. I know I didn't get to them all, but I will read them all after we go off the air here. And I really can't thank you guys enough for the support that you've been able to bring, not only today, but each and every day on YSN. Keep clicking. Keep going to the website. We got so many things, standings, scores, everything. Live streams, obviously, and stories as well. Anthony, the content director and social media director, does a phenomenal job, and I really want to thank him for what he's been able to bring to the table in what has been a tough day. It's been a tough day, but we will get through it as we always do. We're undefeated as we sit right now, so I'm sure we'll get through this one too. That's going to do it. We'll see you tomorrow, 3 to 4, right here on Your Sports Network. Peace.
YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of Your Sports Network.